Tonight's proposal actually is not really an exposition. It's not me here talking in front on an exposition because the discussion is how to evaluate the practices of a mediumistic meeting, each function, each role, each person within a meeting, evaluating their performance, their development, so that they can constantly improve and have better quality. Because we believe that the development depends on a good evaluation. If I don't have good criteria to evaluate, I could be doing something that's not good, always bad, and thinking that I'm doing something good. So, the criteria of evaluation for our meetings, mediumistic meetings, are very important for us to be able to make them grow. But I imagine that the majority of the people here don't belong to a mediumistic meeting. Is that right? Who belongs to a mediumistic meeting here? Raise your hand. Anyone has a question, a doubt about that? And the other people don't belong to mediumistic meetings. Is that correct? So we need to think how we're going to function today, since we have about 3 hours, that it could serve a purpose for those who belong to a mediumistic meeting as well as for those who don't belong to one. I brought a specific material, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, about the criteria of evaluations, and I also brought some sentences and important remarks for us to guide ourselves about the practice of mediumship, because we reincarnate with mediumship, understanding the objectives of mediumship, so that we can then think about how to do a good evaluation of it. Perhaps it's better for me to bring these remarks, and from there have bigger or greater questions before delving into the specific topics about mediumistic meeting. Maybe here we can open up for more reflections. From the book The Messengers, the second in the series by André Luiz, The Life in the Spirit Realm, the first of the series is Astral City or Nosso Lar, the second is The Messengers. There's a moment where he is chatting with Telesforo, who is a spiritual mentor, and they are in a place which is like a school that prepares spirits who are going to reincarnate on the earth as mediums. So from this we understand that to have this ability or sensitivity is something that's previously planned for this reincarnation. So we understand that mediumship is situated in this physical body, planned for this body, but it doesn't mean that in the next reincarnation I'm also going to be a medium or may have the same type of mediumship, because we see that mediumship is a trial, characteristics that the individual establishes prior to reincarnating. And then he comes with those traits in order to develop, as well as wealth, poverty, beauty or ugliness, intelligence or lack thereof, or abilities. These are all specific trials so that the individual can develop better. And mediumship is just one of those possibilities in order to intensify our process of developing morally, as well as transforming ourselves and learning in a process. So here they are in this school of mediums, and the Telesforo has three citations which are very important that called my attention. First, some achieve partial results in the tasks to be developed, but most have failed terribly. What's the majority? Most. Almost all have, more than half, have failed terribly. far and few in between. Far and few between. Very few obtain success, some success, in the delicate mysteries of mediumship and indoctrination or doctrine. This was a very impactful sentence. Very rare achieve some success. Perhaps because the majority comes here is not able to handle its propositions. A lot of things, people get lost along the way. Some don't really get lost, but are not really able to extract much benefit. Those that do are very far in between. The spirit guide says that in New York there were two very different groups. That's a joke, guys. This is like from 1940s, 1940s, yeah. We weren't even thinking about organizing these groups in New York then. What do you think of this first sentence? I wanted you to tell me so that I can understand what you're thinking and be able to direct the conversation accordingly. If you don't think anything, it matches with what has been said in somewhere where he says 40 to 60%, that we complete 40 to 60% of our reincarnatory plan. The completists, as they say, are the ones who complete it 100%, and those are very rare. Yes, that is the same logic that we reincarnate with a program, with planning of a specific time frame in order to reincarnate with commitments and tasks. And very rare are those who complete their reincarnation saying, all right, I took care of all my commitments. Sad, right? It's horrible if you think about it. Very rare are those who are able to complete their reincarnation having fully finished everything they've committed to. Specifically for mediums you're talking about, or for everybody? He mentioned in the book Missionaries of the Light, in general, all of us. And in this sentence here is specific to mediums. Mediums and counselors or dialoguers, because this is a school where they're in to prepare mediums as well as those who are going to be talking to the mediums. So either his example or this one, the logic is the same, that very few are able to fulfill the tasks. And why did I bring this sentence? Within this logic of evaluations, in terms of mediumistic groups in Brazil and in the world, we have many of them. There are more mediumistic groups than Spiritist centers, because there are centers that have several mediumistic groups. I've been to one that there were 22 mediumistic meetings in the same center. So it's very rare are those who will actually fulfill it. So perhaps there's something wrong in this logic, because we are doing the work, but we're not reflecting about how we are doing. And in this logic, it's not very productive. So I brought this sentence, and then João complemented it. It's not just in mediumship, but for the most part, how we live our life. Because we reincarnate and forget that we are not here at leisure, on vacation, to have fun, to eat, drink, and travel. We are spirits with our past commitments who ask for the reincarnation in order to have the process of intensifying our evolutionary process. But because we forget our past and our lack of moral commitment, we come here and forget what we've done. I remember an example which I think is very interesting. A professor from the university in Brazil who he had a salaried sabbatical in order to do his doctorate. So like for 3 or 4 years, the university was paying his salary and he was off so he could do a doctorate outside the country, and the university pays for it as an investment so that this professor can study, improve, and can return to that university and become a better professor there. Well, 4 years later, he went back to the university and said, "Listen, I didn't do what was planned." "What do you mean?" "We paid 4 years. It was programmed for you to leave, do your doctorate, and then 4 years later, getting all the salary, getting paid every month, you come back and say, I didn't do the doctorate. What do you mean?" "That's us. We plan, ask for this, help for this, plan this, who's going to be the father, the mother, mediumship, the groups, schools, formation, learns a bunch of things, then arrives in the country of destination, forgets the commitments, and let's have fun. One hour a week, 2 hours, specific time that's, excess over. Maybe we can study, think about this thing of moral transformation. But really, that's not the point. We don't live material life. We don't see it, the objective of material life, as our evolution. It's like as if we're just here, casually living, according to the demands, the needs, and the problems. And unfortunately, the number of people who is able to fulfill their existential objectives is very small. If you ask of you, within your proposal, I'm 34 years old, what I've committed so far and I programmed, do you think I'm handling it or not? Like doing an evaluation halfway. He says, I don't know. Because we don't know what we've committed to, or what we've agreed to do. So in this line of thinking, you got to do a lot. Because at the very least, I finished the reincarnation. Look, I did much more than was planned. So if the completists are rare, you're even more rare that did more than what you had committed to. That would be a wonderful thing. If you're in doubt, if you're not handling it, well, do more. Because then the probability. But we don't know of any case, written case, that they did more than they planned to do before coming over. This is kind of a sad thing, right? We're smiling, we're laughing over it. Because I'm like a bit foolish about it. But really, it's sad to think about. So this school of mediums that he's talking about is perhaps think spending a few years there, studying, becoming better, getting ready in order to arrive here and take care of this task. And when we get here, we actually don't want any of those tasks. And I keep thinking the disappointment of the spirits who prepared us, who helped us in our reincarnation project and planning. Because then once we're here, we don't even remember them. There's a case, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the book Missionaries of the Light. A gentleman named Otavio who spent more than 30 years planning his reincarnation. Can you imagine 30 years planning a reincarnation? More than 30, 35, planning to reincarnate. He got here, and in 20 years of age, he already started walking completely differently, and his life finished at 45 with syphilis, having a child out of wedlock, getting himself involved with people that was not part of the plan, and ending as a suicide because of the sexual disturbances. How do you think a person like that comes back to the spirit realm? I imagine the feeling of failure, of being defeated, of so much time invested, so much planning, and then after, when everything ends, well, listen, you didn't even get close to what you were supposed to do. It's very sad. And let us not confuse with tasks, because nobody came to Earth to develop tasks. We're talking about a commitment in the sense of moral development. Otherwise, we think we have to be going like crazy, doing, which the more evolved is the one that reads more books or who sleeps less hours or who takes more responsibility on or writes more books. I can write as many books. I wrote 4. So I can throw it in people's faces what I think they should do. Be aggressive in my texts, not reflect on anything that I wrote. I can write 50 of those. There are some authors today in the Spiritist movement that write 10 books, overnight. It's not tasks. These are not tasks of taking the books. I'm not going to take those books back to the spiritual world. Here, this is the bio. Please check how many points I scored. It doesn't work. We're talking about leaving the earth better than when we came. Are you guys are you looking with a very sad face to me? Can I do something for you? Faced with this sadness? Do you mind if I drink from the bottle?
O copo tá do lado, hein?
I think it was small. I could drink right out of the bottle. So things get worse. We need faithful collaborators. He's talking about the recruitment. We need faithful collaborators who don't measure conditions, compensations, and argumentation or discussions, but those who are interested in the sublimity of the sacrifice and of the renunciation with the Lord. What do you think of this sentence? You're not going to say anything actually, so I'll just make you talk. What do you think it means, do not measure conditions? No, you're prohibited from speaking. Let them talk. Okay. What is not measure conditions? So you can only add. If they speak, then you can add later.
No judgment.
Saying no judgment.
Sem julgamento, não fazer julgamentos. Incondicional, não fazer julgamentos.
In what situation? Give me an example.
Like if you're going to help someone, like you're not, like you mentioned yesterday, not to expect anything back. So you just give, you just do, and then let it go.
Se você está fazendo alguma coisa, não esperar nenhuma retribuição. Você simplesmente faz porque você quer fazer, sem esperar nenhuma retribuição, gratidão.
Okay, then these would be like compensations, I guess, right? I do, but I expect or get a compensation, a return. Get applause, compliments. What type of restrictions? I think the sentence has to do with mediumship with Jesus, without expecting anything. As a servant, there's not conditions expected. You're not going to be the main medium. It's going to be in your terms, in your life, in your time, or how you want it. If you are serving, in this moment, I don't belong to a mediumistic meeting, but I used to in the past. So we are faced with personal opinions, with pride, with criticism sometimes from the directors of the meeting in order to improve the performance of the meeting. The person feels resentful those criticisms.
Quem trabalha
So, for those who work with mediumship in the Spiritist house for a while, has already prepared themselves for those things. I feel that people have lost their sense that the mediumistic meaning is a mediumship with Jesus,
no sentido
in the
que a gente não
sense
está ali pelo
that we're
fenômeno,
not there for the
mas
phenomenon,
Deveria estar ali
yet we
pelo
shouldn't really
fenômeno
be there for
e
the
nem
phenomenon
pelas
or
compensações ou
for the
recompensas.
compensations or rewards.
Então, acho bem
I
adequado
think it's very
o que você
adequate
fala
what you just
de
mentioned.
não dá para fazer
You
exigências,
can't make
né?
demands.
Mas se for para
Oh, but
ficar
if it's for me,
criticando,
if it's
eu
for
não faço.
criticizing me, then I'm not going to
Se não puder
participate.
ser do meu
If it
jeito,
can't be my way,
então eu
then
não aceito.
I'm not going to accept it.
Se tem que ser
If it
assim,
has to be
então eu
this
não
way,
vou.
then I'm not going.
Nós falamos como
We
se a
talk
nossa
as if
presença
our
ou o nosso
presence or our
trabalho
work
fosse prêmio para o grupo.
was like a prize
E aí,
for the
como
group.
o grupo não faz
And
do jeito
since
que
the
eu
group
quero,
doesn't do it the way I
como as
want it,
pessoas não
or
pensam como
people
eu,
don't think the way I
eles não
think,
terão a honra
they won't have the
de
honor
usufruir
of
da
taking
minha presença
advantage of my presence,
maravilhosa
of my
que eu
wonderful
sou.
presence that I am.
Você e mais outros
You and many
98%
98%
se
others
abracem
hug yourselves,
e vão
embrace
morrer todos
yourselves, and all
juntos
gonna
na
die
beira da
together
loucura.
in the
Não é
frontiers of
lógico,
insanity.
mas
From logically
olha como é
speaking,
difícil a gente
check how
pensar que
challenging
estar
it
num
is to
grupo
be in a
onde as
group
coisas não
where
funcionam
things
como eu
don't
gostaria,
perform the way I would like,
estar entre pessoas
to be amongst
que
people
temos
where we
divergências,
diverge
que não
and don't
concordamos na
agree
forma de
in the
pensar.
way of thinking,
Estar numa
to be in a
relação onde
relationship
as pessoas me
where
criticam
people
ou me
criticize me or
questionam
question me,
e mesmo assim
and even
estar
so,
bem
to be
e cumprir
good
com o meu
and to
compromisso.
fulfill my commitment.
Isso não parece
This
existir,
doesn't seem to exist.
porque a gente só vai se
Because we're
aproximar
only
das
going to
pessoas
get
que
close to
concordam
people who
com a
agree
gente,
with us,
que pensam
who
como
think
a
like we
gente,
do,
que nos elogiam,
that compliment
nos
us,
valorizam
value
e
us,
fazem o que a gente quer.
and do what we want.
No
In
Brasil,
Brazil,
a grande
the mass majority of spirit
espíritas,
centers,
eles surgiram por conta
they
de divergências.
came about as a result of disagreements.
Não é do meu jeito,
You're not going to do it my way?
então
Okay.
eu saio
I will
daqui
leave
e
and I
faço
will
do meu
open my
jeito.
own center and do it
E
my way.
aí eu odiava
So I used to
que não
hate
tinha
the
possibilidade
fact that
de
there was not a
mudança lá
possibility of
naquele grupo.
change
E
in
por
that
isso eu
group,
saí para
and
fazer
so
do
I
meu jeito.
left it
Mas
and did it my
agora
way. But
é
now,
do meu jeito.
it's my way.
Então
And
outros
so other
vão
people will come,
bater de frente com o
will
meu
knock on my
jeito.
door
E
and go
aí esses
against
saem
my way,
embora.
then
E
those
aí
are going to
vão
leave,
crescendo
and so
centros
they
espíritas.
grow and build new centers.
E alguém disse, nossa, mas no
Somebody
fim é bom
said,
essas
well, in the end, it's
divergências.
good, these
Porque estão
disagreements,
surgindo
because
centros
new
espíritas.
centers are being born.
É ótimo.
Yeah, it's great, yeah,
Maravilhoso.
it's wonderful.
Tudo surgindo por
Everything
conta
that
de brigas.
comes as a result of
Raríssimos são os
fighting,
centros espíritas
very rare
que
are
se
those centers
desenvolveram porque
that
nós
develop
recebemos
themselves
as
because
pessoas,
we've
o grupo
welcomed
está
people,
funcionando
the
tão
group
bem
is
que
working
nós
so
temos
well
tantas
that we have
pessoas
so many
que
people
decidimos
that have
agora
decided
destacar algumas
to
pessoas para
feature
começar um
some
grupo
people
novo
to
e
start a
vamos dar
new
apoio
group,
para
and
essas
we're going to
pessoas
support
começarem um
them
grupo novo
in their
e
new effort and
formarmos uma
form
família cada vez
a
maior.
larger
Isso
family
seria
evermore.
talvez algo mais
That
apropriado.
perhaps would be
Mas
something more
sempre por
appropriate,
conta
but
das
always as a
divergências.
result of
Então, nós
divergences,
lembramos do
disagreements.
período
And so we
estressante de
remember
todas essas
the very
divergências,
stressful
até que o
moments of
grupo
those
rompa e
divergences
precisa
until
começar
the
tudo
group
do
breaks
zero,
apart and
a
another
ganho
group has to
pessoal.
start from
Não tem
scratch.
nada de bom nisso.
There's really nothing good about that.
Porque
Because
fazemos
to
ou
do,
estabelecemos
because we establish
condições,
conditions,
ou porque esperamos
all because
compensações.
we expect
Eu quero
compensations. I
reconhecimento,
want
eu quero
acknowledgement,
elogio,
I want
eu quero
compliments,
encargo,
I
eu
want
quero algo
a
especial, eu
role,
quero
I want
alguma
something
coisa
special,
que me compense
something
o
that will
fato de eu estar aqui.
compensate for the fact
Porque
that I'm
eu sou
here, because I am
maravilhoso,
wonderful,
dando da minha
I'm
presença
giving of my
maravilhosa,
presence,
então vocês me
and
recompensem
please
de alguma maneira.
compensate me somehow.
É ridículo.
It's ridiculous, right? If you think about it.
Ou
Or
discussões. Porque
arguments.
aí a gente fica discutindo
Because we argue so much. Why is it not my way? Why I criticize this, I think that way, etc. And we can't really grow as a result of getting stuck and chained to these discussions and arguments. But those who are interested in the sublimity of the sacrifice and renunciation, with or without pain. This is not renunciation in the sense of, oh, Jusana is like this, leave her to be, leave her be. That really has nothing to do with renunciation with the Lord. That's just a comfort zone. Because now I'm trying to run away or escape from reflecting, from counterpoint, from analysis. Oh, leave her be, whatever, leave her alone. Okay, fine. Leave them that way if that's how they want to do it. We are actually we're in an opposite. Either in those arguments where it doesn't lead anywhere, or in the other extreme, a renunciation that's not with the Lord, but a renunciation of like, I don't want to get stressed over this. Do you agree with me? Are you guys more towards renunciation or to arguments? Or renunciation with the Lord? This is in all aspects of our life, aspects of the Spiritist Center, as well as the mediumistic group. The general cause of disasters in mediumship along the way to not be able to fulfill the tasks, to get obsessed, is the absence of the sense of responsibility and the absence of the duty that was planned to be fulfilled. But before we read this, we could say, oh, I don't know what I don't remember what I've committed to. Just like I don't remember, I don't know. I don't remember what I had to do. But that was good until this sentence came. Once this sentence is read in the Spiritist movement, then we don't have that excuse anymore. Because now we know that we have a duty to fulfill, that we've prepared ourselves for it, and whoever sits and meditate and reflect for a few days about their commitment in Spiritism will know their commitments. Things will touch our conscience, and it is for that reason that we don't really stop to think. Because if I sit, meditate, reflect, my conscience will signal me how I should do really more, or I really should apologize, and I really learn to be a little less rigid, less impositive, less prideful, and so conscience will tell us. So we prefer not to even stop and hear, just so that we can hear our conscience demanding of us. Do you agree with me, or you think I'm being insane? So we're going to go back to that know thyself. It's the necessity of self-discovery, the courage to get to know ourselves. And I think we are very rebellious, and people can't really see. But since the majority, the mass, works this way in a rebellious fashion, we think that that's the pattern or the standard. And when somebody stands out in the sense of not really taking advantage of the study or dedicating oneself more or to walk in this path of goodness, sometimes we kind of like put them down or dampen them. Oh my God, you don't really have to do that much. Jeez, that person said that to you. You're not a saint. We actually stimulate the person. Because if I begin to see people doing more than the average, I'm going to reflect that perhaps I also need to do more. And so we experience an average that's very low, thinking that that's the norm. It's not the norm. That's common. It's common for a spirit to reincarnate and not fulfill its tasks. It's common for a medium to reincarnate and not fulfill its work. That's common. But it really shouldn't be. It shouldn't be our pattern or the norm. It really shouldn't be part of our nature, standard. So we begin to anesthetize ourselves or deaden ourselves with entertainment, with distractions, with travel, with shopping, with food, with gossiping about people, was reading materials that are not really useful. And so we begin to take charge of so many useless things and don't really give time or space for our conscience to signal to us what we truly, truly need. You didn't like what I said, did you? Oh, but I need to rest. Okay, rest in a healthy manner. I need to distract myself. Great, distract yourself in a healthy manner or a productive manner. But nothing justifies this waste of time that we live in with information, activities, relationships, people who don't really add to us and it doesn't really get us anywhere. So these sentences, they should touch us in a sense of what can I do more? How can I reorganize my routine? How can I really organize my time better? Where I can place my energy and what am I doing out of my life? Regardless of mediumship or mediums or not mediums. This is just a reflection for everybody. What do you guys think so far?
I think you were just talking to me straight up. I was about to say, what do you do when you physically feel tired? You need to rest. And then when you're resting, you feel, let's switch the TV off. And then, for 15 minutes, and then it becomes half an hour, and then so what?
O que acontece quando você está cansado, corpo físico cansado.
Você consegue ver ele?
Cérebro tem que descansar. Aí a televisão, de off, de volta de novo por meia hora. Meia hora vira novo tempo e after a while.
After that, it just goes out and you don't read or whatever.
E aí continua nisso, e aí você fica nisso.
With the excuse that we've done that because we were tired. In the end, it's all excuse. Because if we're really tired, I would search something to relax with, a self-massage to relax my body. I would do a meditation. I would do other things to really rest. Because we already know that lying down in front of the TV at the end of the day, you're not really resting. But we live immersed in these habits that have nothing to do with our reincarnatory plan. Sad, isn't it?
Você não acha que desde 1940,
Don't you think that from 1940
2018,
until
houve
2018
uma
we've
melhora
had a little bit of an
na
improvement,
média
perhaps,
do
an
rendimento
average
e
as
do
far as how
desenvolvimento,
much we've developed,
diante de
how
tantas
much we can,
reflexões?
out of so many reflections we've had a chance to do. And
Eu
where are you getting this from,
sou
Fred?
otimista,
Well, I'm a
então
little
eu
bit of an
leio
optimist,
essas
so
frases e
I
me
read
bate
these
pessimismo
sentences, and
que
this
tem uma
is a little
vontade de
negative to me.
rejeitar
It
isso,
makes me want to reject
instintivamente
all of it,
rejeitar.
instinctively just reject everything you're reading. Well, how do you know this is not like just a self-defense from your ego so that it doesn't make you reflect on your life? Fred says, are you analyzing me? Because I read a text, and that touches me deeply. I can look and say, wow, this really touched me deeply, and I'm going to really need to think about this. Or I can look at it and say, well, this is not worth anything. This is awful. So I believe that's not the case. You know why? Because today we spend so much more time with our outside life. Before, I say before, not because I'm really young, but my parents, my grandparents used to tell me that people knew each other more back in the days. They had more time to reflect upon their lives. They had habits of talking about their lives lives. And because of that, they would reflect on it more. Now, we don't have time these days. We don't have time with our children because they're in school and they're in this course. And also they can't have a lot of time with us because we have long journeys into our jobs, and we have many other occupations that in the end are really entertainment at the end of the day. The time that we spend on TV, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, to search for information that doesn't grow us, doesn't increase our information that's not really needed to make us better people. Sometimes we have a lot of information for when we sit on a table to talk, one talk, and then you go, oh yeah, that's right, and then, but it's not something that's really important. So if I tell you, oh, it's true, this is something I read, and if I tell you or not, everything will stay the same. So we have today a lot more resources in order to run away from who we are, escape from ourselves. And sometimes, in about 2 minutes, I press a button of the elevator. If I'm by myself, I press the elevator button. Maybe it takes a minute for the elevator to get there, but I'm already on my cell phone and I'm looking at something. Because 2 minutes is too much time for me to stop and be with myself, let alone 20 minutes. We don't listen to music anymore, classical music. People used to have listening to music. You know, the image of an older man sitting down, enjoying some music. We don't enjoy music. We don't interact with one another. Everyone stays in their own insanity talking to each other. So he says to me, oh, I have 2 children. And what do I say to him? Well, I have 2 also. Well, I didn't ask if you have 2. He tells me he has 2 children, but I'm not asking how old they are. If they're 2 boys or 2 girls, how do they relate to one another? Where are they now? Well, we already start talking about something else on top of what they're saying. And then they're going to say, well, I have 2 children too. And then he says, well, I have a boy and a girl. And then I say, oh, me too. I have a boy and a girl too. And then it's two people left in their own insanity in little monologues, but communicating to each other. And then we leave there, very little is added to who we are. And it's not a real interaction at the end of the day. So we start to empty our lives. We don't look inwards to the other, to our commitments, to our relationships.
Continuo rejeitando.
Is that better, Fred, or do you keep rejecting the text? Good. Fred says, oh, still rejecting the text. Like, all right. But this is also something to think about. I'm not just picking you out. But it's also something for us to think. I see a lot the text of Joanna de Angelis. Well, they say, oh, it's too hard to read her books. Well, if you read one of her stories, one of her texts, usually you can take a lot. The hard thing is to digest what she's saying, because she's very straightforward in a lot of things she says. But for you to really digest that as she's talking, that you are egocentric or depressive, and you look at that and you say, oh, yes, you look at that and say, I'm egocentric, and I accept life the way it is, and I act like a kid, and that wants to impose, and that wants, oh, no, this is too hard to read, I can't read this. Oh, but I read other texts, and I don't think it's so hard. Some phrases are, some sentences are, but the idea you can grasp, the commitment that we have. Sometimes we reject text, reject talks, reflections, because they're really going to mess with us. I was going to say that I also think that nowadays, maybe in the last 50 years or so, people have disconnected from nature. They don't have this connection with nature. There's no connection with nature at that level.
You don't connect with your own nature.
Or their own nature. People disconnected from everything, from themselves, from the other, from nature. And this is why we're so sick. The statistics of depression, anxiety, physical diseases, the absurd. Because everything comes from this disconnection. Can I ask a question? I hear a lot of lectures, and I see that some lecturers... Don't say the name. No, don't worry, don't say a name. But some lecturers say that people in Spiritism need to work however way they are, whatever state they are at that time. And with time they will develop their moral growth. But others say specifically, especially in mediumship, you need to already be more prepared. So my question is this: there are groups that really pick and choose who can or can't be in the mediumship meetings. And other groups will just simply place someone even if they're not quite so balanced or so prepared. So my question is, what's your point of view in this context? Given that some think it's positive for someone to go however state you're in at that moment, you can already start working and this is going to help you with your self-improvement, and others that think, oh no, I'm not going to be able to handle it because I have a lot going on, I'm not good enough, I have all these problems. So they don't even try, they get discouraged by this. So what's your view of this? Okay.
I understand this restriction.
I understand these restrictions due to the resentment, the fear that some people have. Well, how is that person going to fit into this group? Because the mediumistic group has to be a group with a lot of affinity, with good ties, with a common ideal, because it is a challenging work, group work. Having to deal with all the functions of the mediumship meeting is very challenging. So we are fearful of who is going to enter this group, in the sense that it's a person that is going to increase to the functioning of the group. So I think this creates that many groups have these restrictions, not evaluating so much if this person has a condition or not, but since we know each other very little, we become fearful. And I've seen many groups that after the person enters a group, well, you're not going to tell them, well, now you leave. So then it creates this situation that's troublesome. So we learn to be very demanding and rigorous before they enter the group, because after they're in, it's much harder to adapt or to have ties with this person in the group, and sometimes they're not able to fit in. So we've created an idea that I believe is wrong, that mediumistic development or mediumistic education is inside the mediumistic group. That doesn't make sense. In truth, the person needs to develop the mediumship, educate the mediumship in their day-to-day lives. And when they're in the group, they're already in a task which will help them also develop their mediumship. But that is done in their daily lives. When I enter a new atmosphere and this affects my emotions, I feel like chest tightening, or I speak to someone and if I talk to them I don't feel well. This is a mediumistic phenomenon, and I need to learn how to live with that in the day-to-day lives. Some people are very excited when they enter in their room and they start feeling sad, and they don't realize that they're being influenced by spirits. There are other mediums that are lost inside. They enter a place and then they talk loud, they talk to everybody, and they're all excited, and they also don't realize it's because there's this unbalanced exchange of energies with the spirits in this room. This is mediumistic education, the discipline of the reading, of the meditations and the prayers before going to sleep, so that one can detach from the body. You just don't go anywhere. and find any company that's out
O
there.
acordar no
The waking up
amanhecer
in the
com uma
morning
boa
with a
visualização,
good
planejando o meu
visualization,
dia,
planning my day
calculando o
ahead,
meta dos meus
so that I am not
objetivos,
lost for my
o
objectives,
desenvolver da intuição no
developing my
cotidiano,
intuition in
porque daí
everyday
eu vou lá
life.
e ligo pro João e
Because then
João
I
fala,
can go
nossa,
and
Marlon,
call
eu estava
John, and John's
pensando
like,
em
oh
você,
wow,
queria falar com
Mariah, I was
você.
thinking
E
of
eu
you, I wanted to
captei
talk to you, and I
isso,
was able to
e aí eu
capture
estou mais
that.
atento a
Then
estas
I'm more attentive
interferências e me
to these
mantenho atento às
interferences
minhas relações,
and
e
attentive
daí
to
penso
my
na fulana que eu vou
relationships. And then
encontrar
there's
daqui
so
a
and so that
pouco,
I'm going to
e
see in a few
compro uma
minutes
flor para ela,
and
e
buy her a
depois de um
flower,
ano
and
ela vai
after a year
dizer
she's
que
going to tell
naquele
me that on
dia que
that
ela
day
ganhou aquela
that she
flor, ela
got that
estava
flower
muito
from me, she
triste,
was so
e que por um
sad,
segundo ela
and
pensou
that
em se
for a
matar
second she
porque
thought
ela não é
about killing
importante para
herself because she
ninguém,
wasn't
e que
important for
quando
anybody. And
eu
then when I gave
entreguei
her that
aquela flor
flower
para ela,
for
ela
her,
sentiu-se
she
completamente. Isso
felt
é
so
educação de
happy.
Júnior.
This is mediumistic education and training.
O próprio estudo da mediunidade
The
tem
study
uma
of
crítica
mediumship
muito séria
itself,
em
I have a
relação ao
strong
serviço
criticism
mediúnico.
did I tell you this? I have a strong
Não sei se eu
criticism
podia
towards
falar, mas então
mediumistic
eu vou falar,
education. I don't know if I was allowed to say this, but I'm
Mas
going
eu
to
tenho
say
uma
it.
crítica
I
séria
have this
que
criticism, which is
nós
very
só
serious, which is
estudamos
we only study
mediunidade na casa
mediumship in a
espírita,
spiritist home,
mas o que eu chamaria
but
de uma mediunidade
what I
técnica
call
para grupo
a
mediúnico.
technical
Nós não estudamos a mediunidade
mediumship.
no dia
We
a
don't
dia.
study mediumship in
O
everyday
que
lives.
faz quando eu
What do I
acordo,
do when I
não
wake up
consigo mexer o
and I
meu
can't
corpo,
move my
fico com aquela
body
sensação
and
estranha
I feel
e que daí eu grito
like
e
I can't
ninguém
move
me
and I scream and
escuta
nobody can
e
hear
eu
me?
estou num estado de
I'm in a
desdobramento e o que
state
eu faço?
of being out of
A
body
gente não sabe
experience, and
direito.
what do?
Se
We don't
falar
really
com a
know.
Jussara, ela vai dizer uma
If you tell
coisa,
Jusana,
se
she's going to say
falar
one
com o
thing.
Marlon vai dizer outra,
Tell
se falar
Marlon,
com o Sérgio
she's
vai
going to
dizer
say
outra
something
coisa,
else.
cada fala
Sergio's
um
going
negócio.
to, each person says
O
something
que
different.
faz
What
quando
do I
eu estou
do
conversando
when
com
I'm
uma
talking to a
pessoa e
person?
de repente eu
All
vejo
of a
uma
sudden I
coisa
see
dela
something
que
of
ela não me
them
falou,
that they
mas que eu
haven't
estou
told
vendo
me,
que
but that I'm
parece que ela
seeing it.
fez. Isso é
And
fenômeno
it looks like they
mediúnico, isso
did.
acontece
What's
quando a
going
gente
on? Well, this is a
conversando.
mediumistic
Ou
phenomenon.
às
This
vezes a gente
happens when you're
fala
speaking
algo
to someone.
que
Sometimes I
o
talk
sujeito nem
loudly,
falou e diz, nossa,
and
Marlon,
the
mas
person didn't even
era
talk, and
bem
then they
isso
say,
que eu
wow,
precisava
Marlon, this is
ouvir.
exactly what I
Nós
needed to
estamos
hear.
falando
When
da
we're talking
mediunidade no
about
dia a dia.
mediumship in day-to-day life,
E a gente não estuda
when we're not
mediunidade no
studying
dia a dia.
mediumship in
A
everyday
gente
lives, we're
estuda a
studying
mediunidade
mediumship
para falar da
to speak about
psicografia, da
psychography,
psicofonia, do
psychophony,
dialogador,
with
mas
the
isso é
counselor
mediunidade
speaking to the spirits,
técnica.
but this is technical mediumship.
Todos nós,
All of
segundo
us,
Allan Kardec,
according
somos
to
médiums.
Allan Kardec, we're
Todos
all
nós
mediums.
interagimos
We all
entre a
interact
maior ou
in
menor,
one
com
level
mais
or
ou menos
another,
consciência
more or
com os
less conscious,
espíritos.
aware
E
of it with the
todos nós,
spirits.
em
And
muitos
all of
momentos,
us,
somos
in many
dirigidos por
moments,
eles,
are driven by
conforme eles falam
spirits,
para Allan
as
Kardec.
they tell Allan
Então, nós
Kardec.
precisamos estudar
So we need to
estas
study
relações no
these
nosso dia a dia.
relationships in day-to-day
E não
lives,
estudamos.
and we don't.
Isso é educação da
This is
mediunidade.
mediumistic education.
No meu
In
entendimento,
my understanding,
a grande maioria de
the
nós precisa
majority of
estudar a
us need to study
mediunidade no dia a
mediumship in
dia,
our day-to-day lives.
e algumas
And
dessas
some
poucas
of the
pessoas
few of those
que
people
educaram a sua
that have been
mediunidade
able to
e
educate their
vivem a
mediumship
mediunidade mais
and live the
ostensiva,
mediumship more
daí vão
ostensively,
estudo
they are then
técnico
going
da
to be
mediunidade
entered into
para
the
ir para
technical
o
study of
mediunidade.
mediumship in order to
Mas
enter
muitas vezes as
mediumship
pessoas
group.
chegam com
Many
sintomas de
people come with
mediunidade.
symptoms of
No
mediumship
Brasil,
in
nós
Brazil.
funcionamos isso em muitas casas
We see this in
espíritas.
a lot of
Querem
spiritist
tirar dúvidas sobre
homes. They
mediunidade,
have their
diz
doubts and
mediunidade
questions
é no
about mediumship.
segundo,
We say,
quando
well,
não no
mediumship
terceiro
is in
ano.
the second or sometimes the third
Então a
year of
pessoa se
studies.
mata até
So
o
the
terceiro
person
ano,
kills themselves
ou
by the
vai
time
para
the
o
third year
hospital
comes, or they
psiquiátrico
go to
até
a
o terceiro
psychiatric
ano,
hospital by the third year.
porque nós não estudamos
Because we can't
mediunidade
study
no dia a dia.
mediumship in our day-to-day lives.
E quando eu trabalhei no hospital
When I
psiquiátrico,
worked in a
eu
psychiatric
via
hospital,
muitas pessoas que lá
I saw a
estavam
lot of people that were
porque
there
não aprenderam
because
a
they
lidar
didn't
com a
learn how to
mediunidade
deal
no
with
dia a dia.
mediumship in our day-to-day
Ouviam
lives.
vozes,
They
sentiam
heard voices, they
presenças,
felt
viam
presences,
vultos,
they,
ouviam os
they
espíritos,
saw,
e
they
por
saw
não saber
spirits,
como
and they didn't know
lidar,
how to
vão
deal
se
with this.
atrapalhando no meio
And they
dessas
started getting
informações e
confused
são
in the middle of
tidos na
this,
nossa sociedade como
and
loucos.
start being
Mas
classified in
grande
society
número
as
de
insane.
pessoas no hospital
A huge
psiquiátrico não tem
number of people in
esquizofrenia ou
psychiatric
transtorno
hospitals
bipolar,
don't have
são médicos
are not
que não
bipolar or
encontraram uma
schizophrenic.
instituição
They're
que lhes
mediums,
ensinasse a
but they have
educar a
not found
mediunidade.
an institution and I was able to assist them with educate their mediumship, not necessarily to work in a mediumstic group, because in a mediumstic work, this ability that I have as a funnel of interaction with the spirits, with the spiritual plane, when I'm in a mediumistic practice, this funnel opens up even more. So if I'm not able to
ter uma vida
have a
equilibrada
balanced
sem a
life
prática mediúnica,
without the
a
practice
chance que eu consiga ter uma vida
without being in a
equilibrada
mediumstic group,
na reunião,
the chances
tendo a
that I'm going to
reunião
have
mediúnica
to
é
have a
muito
regular
menor.
balanced life, being in a
Porque
group,
é como eu
being in a
estar num
mediumstic practice is
carro
going to be even smaller.
e não
Because it's
sei
like I'm
dirigir direito.
inside a car and
Aí
I
eu
don't really
pego
know
um
how to
carro
drive.
mais
And then I
potente,
take a
a
car that's
chance que um
even more,
acidente vai ser
even
muito
better,
maior.
and the chances of accidents going to be even bigger.
Mas infelizmente, por
But
que muitas
unfortunately,
pessoas
why
melhoram?
a lot of people do get
Porque
better?
só quando vai ao
It's
grupo
only when you go
mediúnico
to the
é que
mediumstic group
começa a se discutir
do they
mediunidade.
start talking about
É que
mediumship,
começa a falar da disciplina
start talking
mental,
about
que
mental
começa a falar da
discipline, start
preparação
talking about
espiritual,
preparing
do cuidado
spiritually,
com as energias.
taking care of
Então ele
energies.
melhorou
So
não
we
porque
got
estava
better
indo
not
na
because
reunião
they were
mediúnica,
going to the
ele
mediumstic group.
melhorou por conta
They
dos
got better
estudos e
because
das
they
reflexões
studied and
acerca da
were able to
mediunidade e da
reflect
mediunidade.
on the
Porque
mediumistic
esses
studies.
sistemas a gente deveria estudar
These are the
sempre,
systems that
né?
we should study always.
Mas eu conheço raríssimas
But I know
casas,
very
para não
few
dizer então,
Spiritist
vamos falar em números
centers,
absolutos, de
not to
todas
say
as casas que eu
exact,
conheço em vários países no
almost
Brasil,
always,
em
all
muitos
of them,
estados do Brasil,
in many
conheço
states in
duas
Brazil,
casas
I only know
que
two
trabalham com mediunidade
Spiritist
consciente
homes that talk about
e que
mediumship
não
in
falam de
day-to-day life.
mediunidade
And
pensando
don't
em
talk
grupo
about
mediúnico,
mediumship thinking
mas que
only
trabalham
about the
com a noção de educar
mediumistic
a
group,
mediunidade.
but
E aí
talk
não tem
about how to educate
necessidade de
mediumship.
muita gente ir
And then
pro
there's no need for a lot of people to go to that group.
O que vocês acham?
Concordo com você plenamente.
I agree with
Porque
you
eu já tive
absolutely,
essa conversa.
because I've had the same
Por
conversation.
motivos de família, eu
Because
tive que
due
me
to
afastar
family issues, I had
da
to
reunião mediúnica. E
leave the
algumas pessoas
mediumistic
falavam,
meeting. A lot of people
você
came to me
leva
and said,
principalmente
Vanessa,
a
but you're a
mediunidade,
medium.
é a minha
I said,
vida.
well, yeah, but mediumship is my
sinto a
life.
presença.
I feel the presence of
Eu faço
spirits.
estudos na casa.
I
Eu
do
sinto a
studies in my
presença
home.
das
I
entidades.
feel the
Eu já
presence of the
estou trabalhando
spirits.
em
I'm
mediunidade.
already
Eu não
working
preciso
mediumship.
sentar
I don't need to
na
sit
reunião
in a
mediúnica.
mediumistic group.
Uma hora por semana, né?
Aham.
1 hour a
enfim.
week.
Então,
So, so this is
tema que
this is
realmente
a
tem que
subject
ser
that
falado.
really needs to
Até
be
porque
talked
muita
about,
gente que
especially
tem,
because there's a
como
lot of
você
people,
falou,
like you said,
acordar no meio,
that
as pessoas
wake up
estão com
middle of the
medo
night.
de
They become
entrar na
fearful
casa,
to
que eu vou dizer
comment
que está
in the spirit's
desequilibrado,
home
está
because they're going to be told that they are
aí não
being
vai poder mais
obsessed
fazer
and they're
parte da
insane, and so
reunião
they're not
mediúnica
going to
e
be
tal.
allowed to be a part of the group. Pass? Oh no, they're never going to be allowed to give passes. Oh, I don't want to receive passes from those kind of people. So yeah, it's really important, especially for us. Well, I turned spiritist. I became a spiritist here, so I don't have a reference from Brazil, and I see the importance, the crucial importance of talking about this. Because Spiritism is for our lives, not so that we're in a group. And if we, who are Spiritists, are not going to talk about mediumship in day-to-day life, who will? The priests in the Catholic Church? Some do. Some of them are given passes in meetings, talking about some things a little more open, more different. But the evangelics, that everything is the devil, how are they going to be able to analyze these phenomena? There's no way. We have this commitment to bring mediumship, which is a basic of Kardec, of the of Spiritism, and bring it to the everyday life. There's no need to create these select groups that develop themselves, and what's best is to be a part of the mediumistic group. And if you're the coordinator of that group, oh man, that's great. You are up there. God, Jesus, and then coordinators of the group. It's right up there with them. I thought it was important that you were talking about this day-to-day mediumship. Many people look for the Spiritist centers. People who are not Spiritists, never had any involvement with the Spiritism, but in some way, shape, or form had a phenomena happening to them, mediumistic phenomena. It's how a lot of them end up at the Spiritist group. So if we're just going to explain to them in the second or third year, the person's already lost interest, or they really think they're insane. And by then they think they're crazy. Or we explain, give them a little bit of the surface and tell them that you'll be fine. And then you're unbalanced, but that's your problem. I have nothing to do with that. We're here to be applauded, to look really pretty in the pictures. Well said. Many people who search Spiritist center come with these symptoms, because I have the reference when reps search for Spiritist home when I'm feeling things, losing conscience. Many people are have this common sense to search for a Spiritist group. And then when they search, well, it's hard to have courage, right? Today I was talking to 2 colleagues from work that are non-Spiritists. One of them says, my aunt and my mom are mediums, and she's not a Spiritist, she's a Catholic. So she searched for an institution in the first place. Did she study something since she has this ability? I asked her. No, none of them. They don't even want to talk about it. How are we doing? What is the format?
Repete a pergunta.
Dele.
We asked him to repeat the question, so we're getting in the way of this interaction here. How would this kind of group take shape? There's no specific shape to it, or format, if you will. But in our Spiritist Center, I can talk about our practice, is a group that works in the same at the same time as a lecture, because we believe some people have a certain need, a big, larger demand, that even though they're in a lecture that would be beneficent to them, that would be benefit to them, but because they're in some unbalances, while they're not able to center themselves, sometimes the lecture is not really going to be beneficial to them. So the time that we have the lecture, which is the day that the most amount of people come to the center, so the majority of the people come, new people come in the day of lectures. We receive everyone one by one. Sounds like it's a huge center. It's not. It's a small center. And we like it this way, where we talk to people individually to know why they're searching for the group and explain to them what we have to offer them. So we say, oh, listen, whoever wants has a fraternal counseling. Well, what's fraternal counseling? It's a talk with spiritists. I have to take my clothes off. How's that going to work? So we have no way of knowing. So we talk and we explain to them. This is the first time, first day. And then people that have symptoms of mediumships that are imbalanced, we invite them to this specific group that happens simultaneously while the lecture is happening with specific themes. For example, this woman came in and she said, no, I'm unbalanced. We could clearly see a doctor. She's completely out of it. And she said, well, the first time we were like, well, have you prayed? Have you been doing the gospel? She said, yeah. And then I started talking to the guys and said, hey, listen, but how is she going to do a prayer? Oh, Marlon, I don't know. Well, you have to ask her. And then the next week, they went to ask her, how do you pray? She said, oh, I start thinking about Archangel Michael, and I start asking everyone, ask. And then when I'm done, I feel worse. So, yeah, this is my prayer. So I haven't really prayed lately. And then she said, she admitted she's no longer praying, because she would finish praying, she felt worse. So she said, even she felt worse. She started talking about asking. So this is basics for us. What is it like doing prayer? For someone who's out of balance, while no one talks to her what it's like doing a prayer, how to do a prayer, let's do a prayer together so you can see and have those benefits. They're not going to be able to balance themselves. So it's someone who's coming there and they're at risk, and soon they're going to end up in a psychiatric hospital if they don't have this kind of support. So these simple things, these basics. I remember a patient in a psychiatric hospital. She would hear the spirits and she would say, get away from me, you evil, you devil. She would scream, and I would say, listen, spirits are not like dogs. The dogs come, get away from me, the dogs go away. So with the spirits, it's a matter of synchronicity and attunement. You're going to need to calm down, elevate yourself. So she said, well, that's not going to work. I said, so when you start to feel the spirits around you, you come after me. And we made this pact. So she would look for me, and we would breathe together, and we would pray, and she would say, oh, they're gone. I say, see, it's not that because they left, they're still here. But you're now no longer in attunement with with them. We have to teach people how to do this, because until then, they spend their whole lives as crazy, as insane, screaming, "Get away from me, devil." Who does this knowledge of the law of attunement? The Catholic Church, evangelicals? Nope, we do. So it's in this sense to help people deal with this function that would be basics. Because soon the Spiritist is going to say that mediumship is going to be our sixth sense. Just like the sight and hearing, mediumship is going to be commonplace. But we need to teach people on how to do that. There's a lot of people that work in mediumship, that already work in mediumness meetings, and they still don't know how to deal with mediumship in their day-to-day lives. They don't know how to feel. They don't know when a spirit, a good spirit is around them, or a spirit that's in need. They can't tell. They can't identify with their own bodies, because this is how we learn. We learn how to identify in our body. But no one said to me, when you feel this, pay attention. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What kind of thoughts coming to you? What kind of feelings? So that I can identify. When is my mentor getting near me? When is an obsessor? I need to learn how to deal with these in day-to-day life. My day-to-day life. I think the biggest majority, most people come to Spiritist center should start with this introduction, because the rest will lack from that. We'll be missing from that. How do I connect to my mentor? How do I do the prayers? These are the basics of mediumship in the day-to-day lives. Yeah.
We could take a break right now, if you're okay. Take a 15-minute break.